Alright, we got this one. And we got... And we got the leaf. Alright. Cool. Alright, so... sorry, I'm sleepy. So, we got the leaf and we got this Conan looking dude. So, right off the bat, I have to ask you, what is this for? Is this personal work? Is this for a contest? Is this just something you're doing? Is this a job? Is this, some kind of commission? Is it fan art? What's it for? Because right off the bat, it's a Frank Frazetta thing. I just want to know if it's for something. I'm waiting for an answer. I can't. Are you going to tell me? I said, what's this for? Is this personal work? Is this fan art? Is this for a contest? I just want to know before I get into it. It's personal work? Okay. So the first thing is about this is, before I get into fixing anything in particular, it's that it's very expected. It's been done a lot. It's the typical Frazetta Conan looking dude. And there's not really any deviations in what you're doing from what's been done like 1,000 times before. And while that's okay to a degree, you have to keep in mind that if you're doing this, you don't just want to be the guy who's not as good as the other guy, You don't want to be like, oh, okay, I'm doing a Frazetta type image, but I'm not as good as him. You gotta find some kind of way to make this original. You gotta find some kind of way to bring the design into like a more interesting place.
Yeah, that's like one thing that always happens when people don't really plan out their illustration, and it just happens over and over, which is the sort of research aspect that we try to instill in people when we do the challenges.
Yeah.
And that's like the one thing that this basically points to that idea of, like find something about him, something that you can add to him. Like you could pull from so many different things. Like he has a bird skull around his neck. He could have more raven features to him or something.
Yeah, because right now he's every Conan that's ever been done in the history of Conan.
But just not as good.
So
like not at the same level. So you have to do something different.
I mean, the anatomy in the leg is wrong because the knee isn't it's not coming towards us. It would be getting bigger than that.
And it's not a very strong pose.
It's not a very strong pose.
Like his legs look really thin, and it like, because he doesn't look that intense, it comes off more as a bodybuilder wearing like underwear.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he just looks like a semi-normal dude, because like the legs are pretty thin around the knees and the calves and stuff. So it's like it's not showing enough masculinity to balance out what he's wearing.
Like
you need to push something. Like you need to make him more intense, like more ripped and unrealistic, if you're gonna just like go for such a static pose.
I'm gonna look for something I have in here while we
talk. Work on the shape of him so that he's not just, like easy power things that always happened in Conan, where like triangle compositions, like exactly what Dan just pulled up there. So Frazetta triangle, but done by Justin Sweet.
Yeah, this is concept for the new Frazetta movie. They're making it a fire and ice. That's the kind of look at the muscle. I'm looking for another image that I thought I had in here, but just look at how he's rendering the body versus how you're rendering the body, and how powerful he's making the features. You know, the dude's short and he's stocky, but he's totally, totally ripped. I'll pull up this detail of it. Oh, this is the one I was looking for. So this is the same kind of pose you're doing with the leg up, but look how much more successful this is. You know what I mean? Like, look at the way he's rendering the body. Look at the power of the legs, you know? This is like really, it's successful, like, it's expected and it's Frazetta, which is what I just told you to avoid. But the thing he's doing is he's bringing more of what the Frazetta thing is into it. Like, everything's more powerful.
Masculine.
Yeah, everything's more masculine. Everything's kind of blown out. But it's successful.
Yeah, like his muscles are unnecessarily flexing. Like he just worked out 2 seconds ago.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, like that's like the thing they did with the 300 when they shot it. Like they did these super intense like shock workouts all the time.
Yeah.
And like they constantly looked like their muscles and they were just all swollen and like gripped and like tensed up and they tried to get that sort of look and like ultra masculine, but even though some parts of that were pretty flamboyant.
Yeah, they were.
But like you could bring that a lot into this image. And the thing, like I was just saying, is he took that Conan pose, he made it into the triangle, which is like, it's just like expected, And and the other thing is like you either do that or don't make him Conan.
Yeah, exactly.
Or find a way to not make him that same exact character.
So, I'm just going to make some basic changes here. And then we're going to talk about what you can do to make it not as Conan. Because this isn't, like, I don't want you to just do a Conan. Like, I want you to make this a little more original. And I'm not gonna push it too far. But I am going to say that right off the bat, he's too naked. That's the thing, is like, it works when you're doing like a Conan for it to be kind of naked because the body mass makes up for what's not there. So, but because he doesn't really have that, like, just general things like his shoulders aren't really wide enough to be Conan. He doesn't look as impressive. Like, I'll make a little layer here.
And it's not that dramatic either. It needs to be dramatic.
You gotta push him out to here and force that fucking huge triangular negative read. Like these are Conan features what I'm adding right now, where he's just like totally blown out. So this would be more the silhouette if you were going for a Conan.
And it looks like just when you're looking at it, it looks like his hair is supposed to be blowing.
Yeah.
In the wind.
Well, obviously, his hair should be blowing like this.
Like it just has to do that.
Yeah.
And if that's like lava or fire around him or something, make it like spraying up behind him or like
put him
embers flying around or smoke behind him or something.
If he's on a volcano, make him on a volcano.
Yeah, like make an eruption behind him or like like push the aspect of ridiculous Conan, because that's what Conan is.
Yeah, it's the height of action, The thing for Zeta always, like, look at what I just did with the shoulders. And I know you're going to say, like, well, that's not anatomically correct. Well, yeah, because it's fucking Conan. You gotta take that stuff like Hogarth did and amplify it. Like, the negative read of power, just in the shape of this guy's body, from this to this, is just, like, huge.
Did you didn't change the leg yet? Right?
Yeah, I did. I bulked them up.
Okay. I was gonna say it looks like you changed the leg too.
Yeah, I bulked the legs up like crazy. But look at what that muscle mass does for him. So now I'm gonna talk about design. Oh yeah, that's what I was gonna talk about. The thing Frazetta always did, the way he describes it, and the way that you should think about it if you're doing an illustration like this, is that what's the point of these kind of static cover Conan images? It's to get attention, it's to capture the essence of something, it's to sell an idea, it's to lure people in. This is pulp illustration at its finest. And the thing Frazetta always said and practiced was that you should choose an image that is the height of action. And what he meant by that is, if you have a camera reel of a guy swinging a sword into another guy's face, and you look at every single frame, you don't want to go with the ones at the beginning and at the end, and you don't want to go with the one in the middle. You know what I mean? You got to find the sweet spot around the middle. So the guy has the sword behind his head. That's not very interesting. He's swinging it down. That's still not interesting. He gets really close to the guy's head, and that starts making a tension because you know what's going to happen next, and it lures you in, and you're like, oh, I want to see his face fucking explode. Like,
Exactly.
you get pumped up about it, and you're like, oh, something's going to happen. Here's this narrative. There's no way that guy's going to avoid it. And that's when you're excited, okay? Everything after that is meaningless. Every single
it's the
shot.
same thing where it's like even if you like another version of that, but the opposite is like, let's say he just killed a bunch of guys and they're all around him, but then there's like a big shadow of something behind him, like about to kill him, and he doesn't know it's there.
Exactly. So
like stuff like that, like about to happen moments, or just had happened, now the next thing.
So if you're going to do a static image like this, which, Frazetta also did, I'm just talking his philosophy in terms of cover design was to find the moment of the highest tension, the moment where you knew it was unavoidable that there was going to be something coming. Like when he did static images, he'd use the environment to do something like that. He'd use the environment to do something exciting. He'd use the environment to show that, okay, this guy's standing still, but guess what? Maybe there's these huge things flying around him. Maybe he's in some sort of crazy hellscape, volcano thing. Like he'd use the environment to, there's a pile of dead bodies all around him. Like there's that famous image of Conan standing with the sword with the woman at his side, and he's on a pile of dead bodies. Like that works.
I got an idea.
Yeah.
A cool way to incorporate the lava and incorporate some sort of
I thought it would
post-action would be like have like bodies around him, but having them like lay in parts of the lava and burning up.
Yeah, that's cool.
Something like that to emphasize some sort of triangle.
I gotta look at a spray of lava to do this.
Or the other thing is like he could be surrounded by soldiers or something with a couple of dead bodies around him, or he could it could be monsters or skeletons or something. There has to be something because there needs to be narrative, because otherwise it's just like you drew him sort of just hanging out.
Yeah, plus if he's all cool colors right now, except for the warm underlighting that's very subtle, by the way. So what does that mean? That means that everything behind him and around him should probably lean towards warm, so he pops.
And you have a blue going on, and you made it sort of just like this pinkish red, but lava isn't like that. Lava is the complement of blue, so why not push that?
Yeah, lava is exactly what you should do. So I'm looking at this, and I'm like, okay, let's just, whoops. Let's do some basic stuff. Let's see if I can make this work. So we'll have like some, how far away do I want the lava? That's the question.
I mean, it should be spraying like up. I think it should, on his left, our right side, it should be spraying up at him to create the other line of the sword.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. So kind of like
that like make the shape a bit better.
So kind of over here.
Yeah. And then like cascading down.
We'll pop that arm out too. That arm's getting lost. So put this little eruption behind him. And then to show that, he's in this environment and it works, in the distance there should be something else, or multiple something else's receding, to show that this is like a volcanic area and it's, active. You can't just have that one eruption. You gotta have some more.
Yeah, and then like
Make the terrain read that it's volcanic. You need some craggy stuff in the background. But then, of course, that means you gotta even go brighter than this, and you gotta get more of a yellow and really make these little cracks in the foreground read as lava. Because right now, they don't read as lava. They need to have that really fiery kind of glow.
and the whole thing of that is you instantly open yourself up to a really great way to pop him forward with the backlighting.
Yeah.
And you can use that yellow backlighting to really pop him off of that blue color that you got going on in the sky.
Yeah.
That'll help a lot.
So then you'll see, like, if you look in the reference photo I pulled up, there's a more desaturated orange. It's darker, more red, and it starts turning into the smoke because this creates a cloud, and
Yeah.
that's going to make a glow that's going to carry over even on the other side of the leg, and that's going to be incredibly important to popping him. So I'm going to add some more of that.
I have an annoying critique for Dan's critique.
Huh?
That the lava disappears behind that leg and it should show up through the other side.
Oh, do you want it actually crossing?
But I was just saying the tangent's there now.
Oh, okay.
Because it's not showing up on the other side.
Gotcha. So I'll add some like spatter here. More spatter on the other side than a solid mass.
Yeah.
It's going to make him look more powerful by a long shot. So we get some of
And
this.
it also emulates what little kids are going to do when you see it.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what you want.
They're going to go, ah! He's so powerful.
Oh.
And you already kind of have the backlight from this going on in your Conan. So that's like a big plus. So let's see. And then, it's not totally neon orange. You'll see in the center, if you're looking at the spray from the volcano, it gets a little desaturated and brighter.
Yeah, and the other thing is like even when you're doing something like this, like just when you go into doing your work, if the saturation ends up being too much to take away from Conan, depending on what you end up doing, you can for the illustration's sake lose saturation in certain places and build it up in other places to move the eye around, because you've got to keep in mind that when you're doing something, even if it's an illustration, it has to work with reality, but you control it ultimately. So as long as you make everything work within the image with just the informed reality, you're pretty good to go with making decisions like that, to just like lose saturation here and there to not make it look like 100% real.
What I would do, you don't have to necessarily listen to this, but what I would do is build up a crag around where that lava is, just a little raised area, because if it's an area prone to explosion, just that's in nature what would be there. And the other cool thing you can do when you build up, just so it doesn't have to be super high, you don't want it to compete with Conan, it should be secondary. The other cool thing you can do when you do that is have the glow from the lava on the inside like this of the rock, and then the streams of lava coming down the side of the rock, which are going to force the triangle more in the composition.
And it can wrap around his base.
Yeah, so when you add these diagonal kind of little tributaries of lava coming down the side, they're going to reinforce that opposite diagonal of the sword, and it's going to make it more of a triangle. And then you can have some down here, coming down in front of Conan if you want. You can have a little tiny river of lava here if you wanted to. Like I'm looking at the reference image I have up, and there's like a little flow. You could have a little flow like that coming around, breaking up that rock, because the rock he's on is kind of just like, it's just a black shape.
Yeah, and the other thing is, like you can do more stuff too if you wanted to. Like you can make the rock craggy looking and, pointing at him if you wanted to, like the edges of the volcano.
Yeah.
You can go crazy, just like I said, make things service your illustration.
Right. And clearly show that there's atmosphere. In something like this, there's going to be a lot of smoke in the air and a lot of dust because volcanic explosions kick up tons of dust. So, like what I'm just doing in the corner here, where the front rock he's on is clearly in front of that rock behind it, I'm kicking up a bunch of transparent atmosphere just because, number one, it's hot, that's going to distort the air. Number two, it's full of dust, that's going to distort the air. Number three, it's atmospheric perspective, and you should be in control of it. It shouldn't control you. And number four, the lava that's on the ground in the cracks is going to create a glow anyway, like it is on Conan. So there has to be this atmosphere
Yeah.
separating foreground and background.
A quick thing you can do too once you have the lava in is, like select a red tone and use like a soft round brush and make a soft light layer. Just
Yeah.
put it at like 20% opacity, and then you can just bring the red light into the shadows on Conan.
Yep. You've got some desaturated red going on, but it's not nearly red enough. And then, like I said in the background, you need more explosions in the distance to show that, because he's not on a volcano summit. He's just in like a field that happens to be volcanic. You know what I mean? That's what this reads as. You could never make this really read as a summit.
Yeah, and you can add like volcano mountain things or whatever in the background.
Yeah, you can add little cones that have these explosions coming out of them in the distance. And again, use that atmosphere to your advantage. It's going to be a very atmospheric environment, so you can really, really kind of mess with the values to service the illustration. So like I'll turn this into a little volcanic cone right here. Like a split down the middle of it. Some little rivers coming down. To kick that stone he's on out of the way, maybe imply that there's actually like a little river of lava between him and the mountain behind him. Like adding that orange shape I just added. It makes him look more solitary, which reflects metaphorically what the image is. He's standing alone in this environment. So if you put the river behind him as well as curling down in front of him on that thing, it implies that he's standing on this lone piece of rock.
And everything's blowing up.
Yeah, everything's blowing up. He's static. He doesn't care that everything's going to hell around him. He's a survivor. Like it just metaphorically in the image, it works really well with Conan being Conan.
And it helps break up foreground, middle ground, background.
Yeah,
very easy.
Because it breaks up that shape of the rock that he was on, which is just like I said, it was just a black mass before, and you wanna get away from that as much as you possibly can. So okay, we've done a ton with the environment. Now I'm gonna do a couple things with his basic Conan design because it's just too. Hey, I've seen this a million times, and like I'm gonna do some things that are expected, but because they're expected, they actually kind of work. Like, little things like, okay, the design's kind of boring. Maybe we can play. What are the tools you can play with to make a Conan look a little more active? You can play with secondary weapons. You can play with more belts. You can play with more fur elements. You can play with some random jewelry. He's got that skull bird thing. You can play with adding more bird elements. So
you could add more story element, like you could be holding something on the other hand.
Yeah. So I'm gonna look at these two references. Like for where he is now, like how cool would it be if he was like holding a dude's head by the hair, like he just cut it off? You could have some dried blood on the sword.
Or like a slightly bigger sort of like giant's head or something.
Yeah, something that would live in this volcanic environment. You could even put some silhouettes of some walking around in the background or something, or standing on one of the volcanoes getting some cast light from an explosion. But right now, the thing is, he's in an environment, it works metaphorically with who he is, but there's still no narrative. We're like, why is he there? Why do we give a shit? It's just Conan exploring igneous rock. Like, there's nothing happening, you know? we don't know where he is. You know, that's the thing I talked about before with like the height of action. You know, we got to know that something either is about to happen or just happened. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this red you have in the foot, and I'm going to just do some really quick kind of, it's not going to look good, so bear with me. Just some blood on the sword, just something. You know, it'll help make the edge read more as an edge. Reference this to get how it looks, because I'm just bullshitting it. Just totally bullshitting it. Make the sword look messy. Maybe add some splatter on him even if you wanted to, like on the breast area. I'm not going to do that, but if you wanted to, you could. So the sword's dirty now. Okay. And then over in this hand, he could have, you know, like we just talked about, pop the hand out to like here, and then, okay. Give it some structure. I'm doing like an orc type thing. I'm making the head a little bigger than his, not a ton. Giving it a clear brow, you know. Giving it these tusk type things to make it clearly not human. I might raise it up a bit. I don't like how low it is right now. Yeah, that's better. Dave will be back in a minute. So, you know, give it a clear shape, like it's got a skull. You can have some, if you want, I don't know if you want to, but you can have some, like, some innards hanging down here. That might be cool. You know, show that it's a fresh kill, make the head still bleeding. Just give the head some structure, you know. Just make it look like it's a monster of some kind. I'm going to dumb down. I had these tusks really huge when I drew it. I'm going to dumb them down. And look at, you know, there's image of cut off heads in Frazetta paintings. It's something he did use. So you can reference those, you know. You can reference that, see how he did it. Try and find a good way to do it yourself. So, okay, now it's got narrative. There's this head here. It's got tusks. It's clearly not human. It's going to be catching some of this creepy glow from the lava. So I'm going to do that. The brow especially is going to catch some glow because it's down close. Conan's going to be catching glow too, so make sure you do that. Oh, I'm glad you guys like the crits. I'm always happy to crit. I love critting. It's so much fun to just look at someone else's work for a change. So, yeah, and then the cool thing is that the highest highlights of the lava are going to be focused around that head just because of how the spray is forming. So it's going to become a really cool secondary focal point. All these yellows are going to be concentrated down here because of how this thing's erupting. So yeah. Oh, the crits run a little long when people give me really finished images. Like, this was really finished when you sent it. And like I always say, I'm going to repeat because it's very true and I always say it in here. The more finished a piece is when you send it to us, the more stuff we can see to do with it. Because you've clearly expressed what the idea is. You know, if you hadn't put those cracks in the ground, we never would have gone to Volcano. If you hadn't put the warm underlighting in and been thoughtful about warms versus cools, we probably never would have got to the volcano. You know, so the better we give better crits when you do more work. And that's a constant thing. That's always going to be true about these. So, adding a second river in the background of lava to break up that space even more. Some terrain. So now he's holding the head. It's looking cool. The head could be facing forward. You don't have to make it 3/4 like I did. I just made it 3/4 to balance Conan's 3/4. The places are filled up, John. The next crit's going to the leaf. So, yeah. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to talk about in this crit, the last thing, is Conan's design. So I'm looking at these two other Conan things. I'm going, okay, what are they doing that you're not doing that maybe you can borrow?
They do.
Yeah. So right off the bat, I don't like that skull belt because of how fast it ends. I think you should bring it more down as a plate. And then if you want to keep the skull motif, you can make the plate at the bottom jaw, and include the bottom teeth. And it'll be more like a screaming skull. But even that looks cooler, and then the top of it should be bigger. Because the thing is that the stuff Conan wears is supposed to be like as gaudy and ridiculous as him. They're accents to the design of his muscles. So if something looks kind of small and flimsy and weak, it doesn't work on Conan. You know, his weapons are big, his armor is big, you know. The only other thing with the anatomy I'm going to mention real quick is just pumping the shapes up a bit. Like, you know, make this ridge above the abs really clear. Pull out these muscles on the pecs into the shoulders a bit. Make that ridge really clear. Right here.
One thing on his like arms and stuff is you can repeat a lot of like the design elements on them because it helps to put like wristbands and like, you know, just bracers on a character who has bare arms, and just to break it up so it's not just bare skin.
Yeah, like right off the bat, if he's got a belt this gaudy, that element's not repeated, so why isn't it a bracer? You know, like right here, this arm's empty, the one holding the head. Bring that same kind of metal, that same kind of carved metal you have in the skull, should be repeated over here. And it should be a similar design. It shouldn't just be the same color. It should be the same kind of skeletal theme, or at least similar shapes. So I'm gonna take these kind of curled arches I worked in on the sides of the belt that are coming down. I'm gonna work them into the sides of the gauntlets. So yeah, it's gonna be something like that with like a big curl in the side of it. You know, and it covers up it makes the arms look more powerful because they're going to be wider now. They're going to be having something on them. You know, you've got these rivets or like nails going around the side of the thing, which is cool. So bring those back. So like around the top of it, you know, have those little balls. Because what those are, if you think about it, those are nails. You know, you gotta think about the actual craftsmanship sometimes to get the most out of these things. Because those aren't just little raised orbs. Those are from when they hammered the leather to the metal, connected it. So yeah, there's gonna be little raised things in here. So this should really echo the belt, is what we're trying to say. Get some carved, embossed detail in there. I'll just go through stuff really quick because we've given you a long crit. A long crit. Yeah, like 30-minute crit. Which is crazy. How fast time goes by.
Do the before and after.
Well, I'm gonna do a couple other quick changes before we finish this. Bring this belt over more. It's hugging his neck too much. Just that little change is gonna add a lot. Bringing it over and around and letting some of that, what's that called? Trapezius? Is that what it is? The one that connects to your neck. It's like a triangle. I don't know. I think it is. Showing some of that going up is going to help a lot. Having the belt wrap around it as opposed to just cutting up into the neck. This gauntlet, on the other hand, is cool. It's too small, though. Bring it up. I don't care if it's metal or leather. I like that you made them different because Conan shouldn't be too regular. It should look like he gathered things as he went. So keep it leather, but raise it up. Have it balance the other one, at least in size. And then the belt, the fuzzy part, should come out more. It should be fuzzier. It should clearly read as fur, you know? And then the only other thing I would do that you haven't done is maybe, this is just a maybe. It's one thing that bothers me when I see Conans that just have fuzzy underwear. And like the two things that I see in the images I pulled up as reference are that they have ripped up leather hanging or pelts hanging from the belt, which would make sense. And it would allow you to do some cool compositional stuff to push the triangle and his negative read. So I'm going to make them probably... Well, they're going to be too dark to really tell if they're pelts or leather, but you should add some shapes here. And they'll be catching light. There will be atmosphere between him and these shapes. But there should be something hanging from his belt, especially, you know, even if you don't want to add it in the front, you want to keep that very crotch shape. There should be something like, you know, blowing the same way his hair is blowing down here to reinforce that, yes, there is wind.
I would like to keep the furry crotch shape, please.
Alright. Well, that's your decision. I respect it.
It's like the way you said it.
Yeah, it's just like it's what it is. It's a furry crotch. And if you want that, hey, who am I to tell you no? So maybe some leather or cloth hanging there. So anyway, I'm going to stop now because we got a little carried away with this one. But here's the before and after. Here's what it... Oh, God, one other thing. I'm sorry. You have on this belt where the nails are, you have a band on the top and no band on the bottom. And that makes no sense. There should be a band on the bottom. It shouldn't just turn into fur. The belt should be independent of the fur. So if you've got a band on the top, bring it down to the bottom. And it's going to look like it is actually a belt. or a girdle or whatever you want to call it. So, okay, so here's the original. Look at the difference. Suddenly, a Conan emerges. Bring that orange out around the sword to compensate for the added leather if you do that.
You do the before and after a couple times.
Yeah. Before. After.
And there you go. Much stronger.
Cool. Way more Conan. Way more Conan. Alright, Thomas, good luck. If you make these changes, bring it back and show it to us. We love to see people apply things and re-crit things.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll get rid of these, and the next crit is the Leaf, which is some kind of awesome Canadian superhero, I'm assuming. First off, I like what you did with the text. It looks like you're looking at maybe Fables. James Jean did like the diagonal cut Fables text. It looks really cool.
Yeah, I like that.
One thing right off the bat, the helmet looks like a tit, and it's not high enough to be hugging his head.
And the other thing is that this is going to sound super mean, and I'm wicked sorry, but it looks like the zombie's blowing him. And like, I don't mean that to be mean. I mean that to be like, that is literally the first thing I saw. But like, he's reaching up for his breast.
I didn't even look.
Him.
Oh yeah, he's like reaching up and he's like, "I'll take your pen away, baby."
Like, it's not to be mean. It's like if you put this out and I was an art director, that would literally be the first thing I said.
Oh shit, that has to change.
So you have to like move him away. Like he's like one easy fix for that would be to move him over a little bit to the left.
Yeah.
Like our left, and have him like clutching the shirt like he's falling down and trying to bring him down or something.
Yeah.
Like he's trying to keep his weight up, but he's falling over still.
His head should be clearly turned at the dude and not shoved into his dick.
But I would just move that whole figure over and cross the arm around to the other shoulder or something like that.
Yeah, it would make more of a diagonal on the piece.
Yeah.
And it would just work better. So that's the first thing we're going to do, because it's like absolutely necessary.
Yeah, you have to change that.
Yeah, I didn't even look down at the bottom of the piece. My vision went straight to the tit he's wearing on his head. Boobs are great in illustration, guys, but not when they're unintentional. So I'd bring them over to like even this far.
Yeah, definitely. It should see. Do you see where you put that whatever that burning thing that's falling over is in the upper right? That he should mirror that same placement. The zombie head should mirror the same placement as that thing falling down.
So maybe something like this.
And then you'd have to break up that tangent there with the debris. Like just turn it into like shit falling, like rubble or something.
Well, there's something else I gotta do. I gotta move him out even farther. I gotta move him out to like here. Yeah. Yeah. He's gotta be like under the arm.
I mean, you could even go a little bit further too.
Yeah.
To reinforce the shape. To not perfectly line up with the arm above the head.
Like that.
Yeah, just to break that. Yeah, that looks better.
Bring this selection back over. free transform the arm to be going across him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. And then, like, that rubble part looks a bit strange.
Also, is this supposed to be a zombie? Because it's a fucking jacked zombie. If it's a zombie, it should look kind of famished and kind of like, dead. This looks like a fucking bodybuilder. It's a zombie? Yeah, it doesn't read as a zombie. It reads as Vin Diesel covered in gray paint.
Well, the first thing I thought it was I thought it was like, I thought maybe you were trying to do like a burn victim or something. Like he's walking through the fire and that's like somebody who's like totally just dying, like charred flesh. It doesn't really read exactly as a zombie immediately.
No. It's a
like
zombie.
You have to do like blood all over it, like more so, and
yeah.
like chunks of flesh missing and like super thin and bony.
Yeah, the biggest reason it doesn't read as a zombie is that it's not gaunt. It doesn't look starved. It doesn't look bony. It doesn't look, it doesn't look dead. It doesn't look like something that hasn't eaten, needs to eat.
Yeah. Like it doesn't have any real rotted flesh or anything.
Let me erase out all this, and then we can start talking about the other stuff. So, get rid of all this. Bring that shoulder clearly up.
And one thing, like, what you should have done immediately is, it kind of looks like you did, but, just a better reference of somebody looking down. Because it looks squished.
Wait, what are you saying?
The guy's head looks really squished.
Yeah, it does. So does his body, though. Look at the distance from the neck to the belt.
Yeah, it looks like you were going for a downward angle, but as you got towards the belt and the crotch, you sort of leveled out and made it eye level.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, instead of going further down that angle.
Yeah.
Like
this is just
you should have shot that reference.
Like a body in this kind of perspective. Does Loomis have a shot of this in his book? He does, doesn't he?
I'm not sure.
Hold on, I'm gonna take a look. I think he does. I'm pretty sure he does. In his like perspective box bodies.
Yeah, I don't think he has that angle. Not like exactly.
No, not exactly. Oh well.
But that's a good reference to actually look at when you're doing something like this. Is how do you actually work that into your image and plan for it?
So, and then the other thing of this paint over is that we got to get rid of the head down here.
Mm-hmm. And one thing in general when you're doing something like this is it's something that bothers me a lot in movies and shows and all that when they try and depict scenes kind of like this. And it's something like a Lord of the Rings will do really well. It's the costuming where the character, he's wearing his clothes, but like from the looks of it, tons of stuff just happened. Explosions, there's fire everywhere, there's debris, there's zombies. Like, he should be way dirtier than he is. Like, there's nothing on his face, there's nothing really on his shirt besides blood that looks like it literally just came from that zombie guy.
Yeah.
And there's no char from, like, the fire, like the smoke, like, all kinds of stuff would be, like, staining his clothes and, dirt and debris from explosions and, blood from the zombies he's already killed besides this one. Like, you could go crazy with texturing and really, like, pop the character out a lot more than you have, because once you can go darker with that, and, you really have more control over the value when you can play with stains and stuff.
Yeah, the other thing is when the perspective's not working, like we were just talking about with the body, and you try to compensate and still fit in all the things like a flat angle, everything looks fat around the waist. That happens a lot. I've seen it in other people's illustrations too. Is it looks like they tack on 75 pounds as a result. So you got to compensate by
Yeah, like he just looks squished as a result.
yeah. So I can see some blood on the shirt here. You gotta up that. You gotta have
Yeah.
it up here too. You know, staining his shirt.
Yeah, like make it look like look at like look at anybody who's in like World War II, like screenshots, like
Just go
from
look
movies
at,
and
dude,
stuff.
for the colors that this is, and for what you're trying to do. Just watch the
Saving
opening
Private
scene
Ryan.
of Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah, exactly.
Watch the beach scene. They're wearing the same color clothes. It's the same color blue light. Fire goes off in the background. There's definitely a scene where someone's backlit like this. You know, everything you need is in a screenshot from the opening scene of Saving Private Ryan.
I mean, just look at how dirty they are and like how worn out they look, or just general texturing in the outfits.
Like literally everything you need for this image is in that. So if you don't do it, you're really doing yourself a disservice.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of war movies just in general you can go and take a look at to get a good example of how to make like a good cinematic war image.
Yeah. I would rein in, even if it's in your reference of this helmet, I would rein in the sides of it. It's looking a little too much like an Indiana Jones hat or like a Sherlock Holmes hat. And then, you know, narrow it out. His head's way too wide because he's being squished. So narrow it out so it looks more like a cylinder than it does a tit. Bring that bottom down more. Make it rounder and less ovular. I know you want to show the ridge of his eyes. Like if I get rid of this and you look, you're showing the ridge of his eyes being all tense and wrinkly because he's so mad. And it's like, yeah, I know you want to show that. You're going to have to cover it up to use this helmet. Don't worry, you still got wrinkles in the nose. You still got the angry looking mouth. You're fine. I know you want to show that brow. You can't. Gotta let it go. So
Yeah, I mean that I was just looking at the Canadian World War II helmets, and you were saying something about that, and it's like they kind of like they flatten out like a plate on top of the head.
yeah,
So your general shape and your original kind of implies that it's like a top hat kind of shape, like a bowler cap.
yeah,
like one of those pop cap things.
yeah.
But it doesn't read like that when it's actually on the soldier. It's a lot wider.
Let me look
And
at it.
you'd see more of it. Like here, let me send.
Yeah,
send
just link it to me so I can make this accurate. One thing
like there's one other guy.
one thing I want you to do, because this is a cover and it's for comics, and you obviously know what you're doing with graphic design, is oh, okay, it doesn't even have a ridge. Okay.
No, I'll show you again. It's this one right here. It does have red.
Oh, okay, it does. Oh, okay, yeah, there's mesh over the first one. That's why it doesn't look like it has one. Okay, so it's flatter, a little wider. Okay, so one thing I want you to do, because this is a cover and it's, you know, you obviously know something about graphic design because of the text. That leaf that's in the leaf, I want you to make the leaf on his helmet way redder. Even if it doesn't work with the lighting, that's going to make it way more of a comic book cover. If you bring like a saturated red into that, that's going to make it pop. It's going to make it read way more. So it contrasts everything by bringing that red in. You can have the shadow going through it. I like that. I think that works compositionally, metaphorically, negatively. It all works, having the shadow cut through the leaf. So okay, I'm looking at the helmet. Okay, yeah, the big thing is that it tapers. So it would be like this kind of thing. And it's wider.
Yeah, it's pretty just circular. So I mean, like the way it hugs the top of the head.
Yeah.
I mean, like you could, like just one really simple thing you could have done for a reference is got like a bowl and just tilted it down on a plate.
Yeah.
Just put a bowl on a plate and tilt it down in front of you, and just see what it looks like at that exact angle.
Yeah.
And then just reference that angle just right, because it is an awkward shape, hard to get right. So something like that, it's probably best to, use that kind of setup.
Yeah, it's better to reference things that are that tough and weird.
Are you saying he did do that?
Well, things that are tough often merit doing once or twice.
Yeah,
Sometimes even more. And I don't think there's a button on top. I'm not seeing one.
There probably is. I'm assuming you probably got center reference or one. Yeah, they do. They have a small little nipple on the top.
Okay, because that just is a tit.
They look insane.
One thing you can do, one thing you can do to take away from it being such a tit is to make it a bloody tit.
Or just add like marks and like we were saying, like dirt stains and like explosions.
So
shit on it.
I'm gonna add some stains on the light side of the helmet to interrupt that highlight. I'm gonna add some grit on the helmet, make it look like it actually protected them. Because why are they wearing helmets? They're wearing helmets because grenades are going off. So it would make sense that things from grenade explosions would hit the helmet.
Yeah, just fall on top of it.
Yeah, and then like little tiny brush here, just get some nicks in the helmet. Like some scratches. You have one on the other side, but it's not enough. So what's up, Dave?
I was just watching Chelsea hold my cat like a baby, and then it trying to attack her.
So the other thing is, because of the flattening we talked about before, is this guy's whole arm is out way too far. Like way too far. His shoulder needs to come into like here. So
yeah, it's the way it looks like his like when people walk, like think about when you take a step forward and how your body turns and how your arm would go back a little bit but not out.
Yeah.
So like just do that kind of like cinematic step for yourself in front of a mirror and look what your arms do. Like put your arm out and your back arm back and just see what that looks like from that angle. And your arm won't necessarily come out unless you're like making this big wide, shape with your body, which is kind of weird.
I would have the fire come up and interrupt the word's leaf a little bit more. Like, have the debris from the fire, the embers or whatever, cut across. Like, like this. Basically what I'm saying is have them wrap around him. So coming up behind him over here too. Make them fitting. Make it look like there's more stuff going on behind them.
I see from your reference photo you sent. Yeah, that's the thing, is like, it looks like, like you use something like that, but then you tried to make it more of the helmet, so you tried to like widen it, and when you widened it, it got awkward. Like it wasn't exactly right. So like the angle of the shape was weird.
So this is what I'm saying. If that broken wood, or I don't know what that thing is, that this is awkward because I don't know what this is. These three black lines, the cover would be better without them. They don't serve any purpose.
Yeah.
Like, what are they? They don't. If you can tell me what they are and it works, that's fine. Um,
Random debris.
no, this is an iconic comic book cover image. You don't need that at all, and I'm gonna get rid of it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of like the things where I used to do stuff like that a lot with like sort of like explosion images and stuff, and it's like if it doesn't make sense with like what's going on,
His
like
silhouette.
because that implies that like that implies that there's an explosion like happening right in front of him,
No,
or
it's just
that like there's a building he's walking through or something and shit's falling in front of the camera.
it doesn't work. It's a comic
Yeah.
book cover. His silhouette is already a triangle. It's already dramatic. There's already fire. There's
Yeah.
no reason to just throw in random shit. Like it's iconic, Like this is an iconic image. There's no reason to break it up and fuck with a proven method.
Yeah,
Because
but just in general, it's the thing to keep in mind when you do all this stuff is that like it should make sense with what's happening, and like just because there's a fire and everything's happening around him, like that doesn't necessarily mean that like the environment matches. It makes sense for that to be like just right there. Like if he was in a building and it was burning all around him, he could do something like that, but he's not. He's obviously outside.
Yeah. And the thing is like when I asked you what it was, like again, I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm never trying to be a dick with crits. I just want you guys to realize the same kinds of mistakes that you make repeatedly. And I want you to realize the way your brain thinks and how to call it out on things before you make a mistake. Is that I said, what is this? And your exact words were random debris. And the key word there is random. And you don't want random images in a well-planned cover. You don't want random things. You want to have a clear shape, clear negative shape behind it. You want to have a focus, and you want to have everything in it service whatever you're trying to do with the narrative. You don't want to throw anything random in. Everything should be planned. Everything should have a point.
Yeah, I mean, like the other thing you can do now that those shapes are gone, is like you could even push that there were like, like within the realm of the triangle and stuff, you could push that there were like dead bodies or something in the fire or something breaking up that fire in the background.
Oh yeah, and there needs to be a grenade here. I see the pin for it, but I don't see a grenade.
Oh, I have one on my nose.
So I didn't talk about it, but I straightened out this crazy wavy button area of the shirt. I didn't really talk about it when I did it. I just want to mention before we stop that no way is the shirt going to bend like that. No way. Unless it's 8 sizes too big for this dude. There's no way that would have happened. Bring in these deep shadows from the other side of the arm of the zombie into the shirt over here. They are tension wrinkles because he is pulling on him.
Oh, and one cool thing about the military uniforms is they have those like shoulder buckle things. The I don't know what you call them. They're just the straps with the buttons.
Yeah.
And yours are really small, as opposed to the actual like uniform that the Canadians wore. And like you can push like the underlying shadows and like the pockets, like the tops of the pockets and all that stuff to like show more of the design of the outfit as opposed to just like the flatness of the shirt. And yeah. It doesn't. All the shapes don't read in the design on the clothes because of that. Because it's all generally like the same tone and stuff.
So.
You also didn't go dark enough, and the arm on the zombies catching way too much rim light. He'd be blocking it with his body.
Yeah. be careful. I'm not gonna take all the time to fix everything, but when you move the arm over across the body, make sure it's not creating a tangent with the side of his body, because it kind of is in mine right now. Like it totally is.
Yeah, definitely.
So you got to watch out for that.
And yeah, I mean, like, there's other things you can do to fix that. Like, I mean, you don't absolutely have to have the arm there.
Yeah.
Like, the original placement for that diagonal was to emphasize that general shape you had going on with the debris and stuff. Now that that's gone, you don't really need it. Like, you could move that arm around. You could have it.
What if his arm was grabbing onto his other arm, like on the sleeve right here, and we had the silhouette of the knuckles, and then it crossed down between them, like that?
That's kind of.
Does it work?
You could do something like that with like the body turning back against it, like trying to get the arm off of him. Something like that would be.
Yeah, if he was reaching like this and kind of have it sliding down, like maybe some rips in the fabric going up, like it clearly slid down, like make it dark lines here. Like the arm was tearing down the sleeve. That might be the only thing I can think of to really make it more active and less of a tangent.
And I'm actually wondering, is this guy like a really like a good guy? I mean, like only because like I don't know, he has like the villain grip going on in his other hand.
Yeah.
Like died. Like basically, like that's all it means to me when like his head turned down. You know what I mean, Dan?
Yeah, I know.
Like that world domination grip.
Like I found the cosmic cube.
Yeah, like exactly.
I'm the Red Skull.
Yeah, he has that going on. He's a hero, but you never got paid. Yeah, that sucks, man. I know what that feels like. I once had to draw a Star Trek image with like 6 Star Trek characters that didn't exist from this guy's universe, and it was the fucking worst. And then I never got paid for it, and I was like, oh, sweet.
I thought he did.
I just love drawing Star Trek.
I never knew he didn't pay you. So. Okay, so the biggest problem with the paint over I've done is that tangent I just talked about with his arm going up. I would do that thing I just suggested where it's going across and grabbing the sleeve. Either that or, I mean, really, honestly, you don't even need the zombie.
Yeah, there should be some sort of story there.
Like, you could put the zombies in the background burning and do the really creepy, like, you know, rendering, like, skulls in the fire, showing the burning body where, like, you know, a human skull on fire looks super creepy. You could put bodies in the background. You could have one of them leaning forward and reaching towards him, like, you know, play off the radial lines, and have the arm reaching towards him with, like, a claw while it's burning. You could put all that stuff in the fire, and I think that'd work better than having the zombie right in front of him. I think if you showed them all burning behind him, I don't know. The zombie just doesn't. I don't know.
But the placement of it's weird, just because he's like down there and stuff. But I mean, like, there's things you could do. Like, you could have bits and pieces of the zombie on fire and creating like an upcast light on him. Stuff like that cool. That could help him.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Like, there are elements you could bring into the zombie to help pop the character out. Like I was saying, like, you could burn parts of him, or you could have him partially wearing clothes that are on fire or something.
Yeah. So what I'm gonna say is just rethink how you're doing the zombie. Make it work with the composition. Because I gotta go. We've been doing crits for an hour, and I have to go get food, and I gotta work on my own stuff, and you know, it's like 3. I gotta go. So I would say make all the changes we talked about, rethink the zombie, and then if you want to come back and get another crit when you're done doing this, we can help you push it to finish. But we've given you tons of stuff to do as is, so I don't feel badly.
Go darker. Don't be afraid to go darker with your values. Look at 3D models, like 3D. Like one thing to help when doing marketing work like this, since you're already going in the sort of, you're trying to go like the realistic render with like the movie blur kind of those embers and shit. Like, go look at rendering of marketing images for video games, like the 3D ones, and see how dark they go and push the contrast a bit. Like, you can learn a lot from that. And I've learned a lot from that, just doing that kind of work, just looking at, like, how do you make something look three-dimensional, and how do you push that aspect of cinematic realism in a piece. And there's all sorts of references online because of that, like promo game stuff, like look at ads and all that, and for high-end AAA games, you know, like I'm sure you can definitely find an Assassin's Creed 3D model in that almost same exact pose with lighting on it that looks realistic.
Yeah.
With the in-game or the CG model, and it would help you just a ton in terms of value and how you make something pop.
Is there anything else I want to say? There's something I wanted to show, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to because it won't load. There's a James Jean cover that's very similar to this, and I wanted you to be aware of it, but I can't show it to you because I can't find a link that works to it, unfortunately. But yeah, just be aware that because of how you've done the text and because this is a desaturated soldier in front of an orange background, it reads as a Fables cover. Specific one.
Yeah, the text does.
Yeah. Let me see. The text definitely does. Yeah, I can't. Oh, wait, maybe I can find it. Yeah, I found it. Just be aware that this exists. It's not totally like yours. There's plenty of differences, but just be aware that that is something that exists. You know? It's something that exists, and it's something that people recognize. And the star in Fables, the red star in the A, is kind of like the red leaf in your A. And there's kind of a soldier with like a warm versus cool thing. So just be aware of that. But anyway, we're going to go. So these were crits for... okay, these were crits for darqjakob, and who was the first crit for? Thomas?
And here's the Assassin's Creed image I just posted in the chat. It's not exactly right. I just found the first one that kind of looked like it to me. And it's just values and how to move shadows around to make a character pop. It's like it's pushed so far into dark and so far into white. Like it is white where it's white. So I mean, like, think about that when you go to create cinematic, realistic-looking images. It's the contrast makes all the difference.
Yeah, the link's not broken. You have to copy and paste it. Because
yeah, you have to select the whole link and copy-paste it.
Okay, I'm going to stop now. These streams will be on demand with your names in them if you need to come back and look at anything. Make the changes, come back. We'll be happy to recredit. And, yeah, good luck, everybody. I'm going to take a break to get some food. I'll be back in like an hour. If anyone wants to watch, I'll be streaming for the rest of the night, nonstop. Just work on my gauntlet image. So if you guys want to hang around in the chat or just leave the page open, I'll be back within the hour. And I'll be on forever.
Yeah, so, and just in terms of what Dan will be working on and everything, it is the Gauntlet Challenges for the Blood Sports. And if you want information on everything we do in the live streams and how to follow this, whatever, or how to do the challenges, just go to crimsondaggers.com and it redirects to everything. Yeah. So all the information's on there if you don't know about it.
So I'll be working on this, my piece for the Gauntlet Challenge. So, yeah, I will see all you guys, and good luck. And like I said, I'll be streaming all night, so I'll be back. And, yeah, I'll talk to you then. So, goodbye.
Bye.